brutality?
I think contributes to police brutality. So, first of all, I call it police terrorism. I believe that communities of color, black and brown communities in particular, are terrorized by the police. And it's not just when they kill us, right? There's the stopping, there's the harassment, there's the racial profiling, um, there's the constant fear. You know, when we get pulled over, it doesn't matter if all your L's are straight and everything's good. From the time you see that red and blue light, your heart starts to beat, your hands start to sweat, you start to shake, and you're not sure how that encounter is going to turn out, right? An experience that's unique to people of color in this country. So, what contributes to it are policies and practices that are meant to keep people of color in place, right? If you look at, I'll give, and in place for profit. So it's important to understand that this country was founded by race-based capitalism, right? So when we all came over together, white, black, actually we weren't even called white, black then, it was Christian, Muslim, right? You were identified by religion. Everybody could work their way out of indentured servitude. But as the money started to roll in and a free labor base was needed, then became the importance of dividing us by race, right? So black people in particular at that point in time were utilized as slave labor for profit for white people. And remember in the last, what I said earlier, when the first police were slave catchers, right? And so we still have a dynamic where white supremacy and capitalism dominate the day, and the police are used as that first line to keep people of color in place, to play our role so that system can continue to play out and make money. When you look at the incarceration rates and who's incarcerated, and you match that against the explosion of private prisons in this country, you begin to make sense about why we are snatched up off our streets and thrown into these prisons, right, for nonviolent crimes like drug addiction. Like in a civilized country, right, you would be putting people that are having issues with drugs into rehab, not prison. But because we then become slave labor, if you don't know the 13th Amendment, slavery was abolished unless you've been convicted of a crime. Once you've been convicted of a crime, you're still a slave. And so we send our slaves to prison. So it's like the one example. So you asked me what contributes to it. So these systems, this need to maintain this capitalist system in place is the primary contributor to police terrorism in our communities.
Are there systemic factors that contribute to it?
There are systemic factors that contribute to it. I think I just answered that a bit. I think it's kept in place by things like the type of education black and brown students get versus white wealthy students, right? Access to certain job pathways, the types of resources that are placed in our neighborhood, the way things are zoned. So for instance, in Oakland, they just try, there's these bins where there's clothing and shoes and you can donate your clothing and shoes. There was a zoning thing that came through, and all of those bins were supposed to go into East and West Oakland, right? None of them into North Oakland or Piedmont or any of the wealthier places. So there are practices that cities put in place to keep black and brown and other people of color in their place. And all of that ties in then to the relationship that people of color have with police in their communities. I think there's also very real racial bias. We do not live in post-racial America, right? And so police officers are walking into communities of color with a perceived idea of who these people are. Chief Bratton, who is in New York now, but Oakland brought in as a consultant, was in Los Angeles with LAPD for a while when I was there. And he literally told his police officers to look at South Central like it was Beirut and that they were at war. So if you put that into the heads of people that are then supposed to go out and police these areas, how are they going to engage, right? How does the media portray black and brown people? What are all the ways that we are vilified and demonized and criminalized that then impact the engagement of police officers? Another thing that's really contributing to it that people are talking about, right, is our vets that are coming home damaged. One of the places that vets can get work is in police departments. And they're struggling with PTSD, right? And so all of those things create a powder keg and an impossible situation that is it's destined to explode.
Third question, what motivates you to do the work you do as an activist?
Love. I was just, part of why I was late is I was doing an interview with a reporter, and he asked me, well, what do you say to people that just say you're an angry black woman?
I'm gonna stop you. We really want